welcome to today's AMA. We'll be having a very exciting conversation where we're talking about design as a key component to the mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies in Africa. My name is Agbona. I'm the team lead for Beam Africa, and today we'll be having two exceptional guests. Yele Bademosi, who's the CEO of Bundle Africa. I'll be talking to Sasha Abramovich, who is the team lead at Beam Privacy. Hello, guys.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Not bad. So this conversation is going to be in two phases. So the first phase is going to be like an introductory start conversation between myself and the guest. We're going to talk about the data product, we'll talk about Africa, and a few other things in between. And then the second segment is going to be some questions from the community. There's going to be like a Q&A. I'll read out some questions to them, and then they'll answer in the way that they see fit. So let's start with the introduction. So let's start with Sasha. So Sasha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so hey, I'm Sasha. I'm a head of product in Beam, and luckily we've got the privilege to create one of the most usable wallets in the crypto industry, and we are trying to make complicated things simple for the user.
Hi guys, I'm Yele Bademosi. I'm CEO of Bundle Africa, and we've built a digital wallet that supports cash and crypto. And our goal is about driving the adoption and utility of digital assets on the African continent. So to simplify things, it's about putting a crypto wallet in every African smartphone and giving people economic freedom as a result.
The question is for Sasha. So Sasha, what is it like your day-to-day activities at Beam like, and what's it like to be the head of product at Beam?
So being a head of product in Beam is an exciting frontier. It's first of all, it's basically people, and it's the product and it's the community. So the three pillars, and I'm very very fortunate to be in the center of all those three and be an integrative part of all those three. I mean, first I work with very, very smart people, and we are a small but very powerful design team. I work with Alexandra Shelenkova and Daria Tarakanova. Daria is our designer and Alexandra is our art director. And I work directly with developers, the developer team, the marketing, some of ambassadors, you guys. So it's being a product in general is a very it's probably the most interconnected position in a company, and it basically helps you to understand how everything in an organization works and how you can drive things across the all the frontiers, like what goes. We were making some feature, okay, the development guys come to us with some great idea, okay, but then we need to productize it, and then we need to think how to bring it to the people and how to market it, how to position it, how to make it, how to shape it. Okay, we had a lot of interesting ideas about Lilantos, for example, which is break-and linkability, which the development team made a great job with providing the building blocks, and then there was very exciting productization process when all these building blocks for the first version we just minimized into a single switch of like, is it a regular transaction or it's a shielded transaction? So we really try to make it very, very simple. And of course, everyone I'm working with in Beam is a very, very smart person, and I'm just off the product meeting where we also to discuss the new interface of send and receive screens, and it was a fascinating brainstorming. I'd wish maybe I should record it next time. Yeah, actually, it was as great as, for example, we decided to remove the transaction fee from the obvious send and receive screens, and in order to simplify everything yet again, and we were discussing as like how to make the labels very familiar for new users. So I mean, it's back to your question. I know that my answer might sound a little bit like taking samples a little bit of everything, but it's working with very smart people. It's creating products that people will find easy to operate with, and it's a lot of it's a lot of challenges in between. It can be as great as how to productize a big feature, or as small as what to write on this or that button, and we treat everything as very important. That's why I presume that that's one of the reasons why our wallet score 4.6 at least on the app stores.
Nice. 4.6 is really good for the non-custodial wallet, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the money is on blockchain.
Yeah. Cool.
Right.
Nice.
Right. We basically, you know, all these protocols like Lilantos and Mimblewimble, they're great for privacy, and everything is nice and decentralized. But it's really challenging to productize everything to make as simple as a custodial wallet for the user, and this is where the adventure starts.
Yeah, I can imagine it's building a custodial wallet that is simple enough for the average African user is challenging. So whenever I see people do that kind of work in the non-custodial space, I'm just like, wow, that's like freaking impressive.
Product, people, what is the third key that you mentioned?
The community. We have a very vibrant community that they help us to shape our products. As you know, the first time I came to Beam, I said, "Oh, can we have some stats on how our wallets are used?" And then Zyderson told me, like, "No way, we are a privacy coin, so we cannot actually, you know, see which screens are used and how. We cannot record the screens. We cannot measure whatever happens on the user side. That would be wrong." So but luckily we have our community and the people are very active, and they are used to our standards. So whenever we have something that works suboptimally, we usually getting ricochets from all kinds of directions, sometimes from community, sometimes in support groups, sometimes from Guy, because he already talked with someone. So that's a really cool process. And we also, the community give us actually the great power, because they believe in our products, and they give us a lot of motivation on how to make it all even better. And sometimes they are very frustrated about some functionalities that are still missing, and we know that, and these are not an easy nights to reply that we have it on our roadmap, but it's not exactly going to happen tomorrow because of prioritization, and we like that level of involvement.
So over to you, Yele. Let's talk a little bit about what do you do at Bundle? I know you're the CEO. I know you're the lead person there. So talk to us about what you do at Bundle on a day-to-day basis.
You know, the core team at Bundle, we're all co-creators in this project. But you know, I see myself more as a team lead and someone that likes to lead from the front. And I think the one place where I've not necessarily done or performed the function is in engineering. So I fully trust Taiwo and our engineering team. And that is like Taiwo's domain. But I've done everything from design to branding to so I do customer support, you know, every Sunday, most weeks. But essentially, I think like my job is, we have a vision of what we're trying to achieve, and it's basically saying, how do I motivate, coordinate, and incentivize our team members to work in a coordinated fashion towards that particular goal? Depending on what particular part of the business requires my attention, that's sort of like what I'm focusing on. But that's sort of like how I think about my role, and it's definitely very, very interesting. I think for me, the big difference between working on Bundle and coming from an investment background is the ability to focus on one particular problem and one particular product and work with a group of people, around that same objective. We've invested in, you have various companies, and you're portfolio managing, you're working on company X today, company B tomorrow, and company Z the next day. And you're not really focused on one thing. Whilst for the last 8 months, a lot of what I've just been doing is just focused on Bundle. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I see it as a privilege to wake up every day and work with some of the smartest people that I've ever worked with before. And hopefully we can achieve the visions that we set out for ourselves.
Awesome. You did mention that you're coming back from an investment background. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the pre-crypto Yele, like how did your journey to crypto space, how did it happen, and all of that stuff? Your background basically.
Before crypto, my background, if I was to go back early enough, my background was actually in medicine, right? So I went to medical school and dropped out after 3 years, and transitioned into tech. And so I taught myself how to code. I was an iOS developer for about a year, as well as design. But I think I focused more on design because I just enjoyed that more. So I cannot dare to call myself a mobile developer today. I'm sure some of the mobile devs are probably laughing at the idea of Yele writing the mobile software. But that's what I did initially. I moved back to Nigeria about 4.5 years ago, and joined the company that got acquired in 2016 and founded Microtraction in 2017. So Microtraction is an angel fund that we're turning 3 in 10 days. And essentially we just invested in some of the best technology startups across Africa. A lot of them were in financial services. And it was one of my early investments was in a company called Bitcoins. That was my first crypto investment. And around that same time period, I began to see a lot of tweets about Bitcoin and decentralization and governance. And I think what drew me into crypto was 2 things. One was that I genuinely believe that so my personal passion is about Africa's economic development. And I believe that you can't have economic development without 2 things. One is a financial system that works, is trustworthy and transparent, and then some sort of like coordination mechanism or system that allows actors and citizens to achieve goals that they can achieve by themselves, right? And so in the past, that has always looked like traditional financial systems. We saw a lot of money that built America came from Europe, money that built China and Asia came from, the West. And we're seeing some similar ideas in Africa as well, but we have a huge problem around, the lack of trust with financial systems and the fact that if you put money into Africa, you don't know it's going towards particular goals, right? And even at a micro level, the cost of doing digital transactions and the availability of digital finance is something that is still lacking. And then we also lack, when it comes to governance, I think that's probably one of the areas where Africa can do a lot better. So for me, the idea of technology intersecting with finance at its core, right? And the idea of technology intersecting with coordination is something that is unique and is what brought me into crypto. Now, unfortunately, we are not seeing a lot of innovation in that space, but or we're not innovation, but we're not seeing a lot of like mass adoption and sort of like mainstream success. But I believe it will come, and some of these ideas are things that we hope to get to with Bundle. Before starting Bundle, I was a director at Binance Labs, where I led investments into about 5 or 6 projects. Most of them were focused on Africa. Invested in Bitseeker, Zend, Fishfort, Raise, and then also led our investment into Fio, which is a usability protocol that basically tries to replace addresses. But realized that a lot of work had to be done to take crypto mainstream. So how do you drive mainstream adoption beyond speculation, right? Like, that's kind of what I think about every single day. I don't believe that everybody who uses crypto are going to want to be traders. When I send Bitcoin to someone that joins Bundle, I send USD. The next question is, what do I do with it, right? So, but because of the success of exchanges and the successes, that we've seen, most people are thinking about it in, around the idea of like trading, but no one is focusing on utility. No one's focusing on building something that is inclusive, that is fun, that you use on a daily basis. And that's what we are trying to do with Bundle.
Awesome. So you made mention about how you're passionate about Africa economic development and your journey to coming back to the country and how far you made a lot of progress in Africa. We'll talk a little bit about Africa a bit more, like further down the line. But now I want to ask you a little bit more about the project. So the next question is going to be for Sasha. So Sasha, why do you think BEAM is the best in class priority coin out there?
We will let users to decide what's best for them. We take pride in what we do. So when we talk about BEAM, which comes out of hand of a very capable, smart and capable team, I can say that we have few criteria. Okay, BEAM is, as our reshaped motto says, we are fast, we are user friendly, and we are confidential. So I think that pretty much sums the direction in general. The wallets are very simple to use. The privacy level is the privacy level of Mimble-Wimble protocol, and the blockchain itself is very scalable. And the transactions comparing to the other networks are fairly fast. And as the people that participate in the projects are smart, we've achieved a lot in capable. We've achieved a lot since the launch of January 3rd, 2019. But our roadmap is towards DeFi. It consists of so many great ideas that are about to come. That, I mean, Alex Romanov, our CTO, is just creating an article to explain things in details. But I'm really excited to see what kind of financial instruments we will release to the market, and what kind of confidential assets and all the applications that will come, and the open APIs platform that users, and open source, of course, that more developers will be able to build their own products on top of our DeFi APIs. So, I mean, that's the future is definitely exciting, and this is what makes BEAM special. We do things we do things as I would say the right way. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are the only ones. Okay, don't get me wrong, but we think how to make things simple for customers, private, and I would even use the word elegant. I think that BEAM provides very elegant solutions, and it will always be for simple people. Okay, I really mean it. BEAM provides great solution for someone who just wants to send money, right? He doesn't want to understand all these intricacies of Mimblewimble and Dandelion or Lilantos, or we basically wrap all this set of great technologies into very simple UI primitives.
So those fortnightly ago, there was an upgrade in the system, which was the hard fork. So what do you think, in your opinion, what does the hard fork mean for the average beamer in Africa, in any part of the world?
The last hard fork paves the way towards DeFi financial instruments. We've started from something which is fairly simple, not that it was easy to implement, but it's simple to explain. It's a simple kind of confidential assets. And we've enabled Lilantos, which can result, this kind of technology can result in increased privacy, one-sided, like how we call it, non-interactive transactions, break-in linkability, you name it. It comes under many names. And the assets that we currently allow to be issued on Beam wouldn't require to be listed on exchange, wouldn't necessarily require to be listed on exchanges, because the main idea is to create a distributed exchange where you can exchange every asset from within your wallet with another Beam or with Bitcoin, Litecoin, or Quantum, which means basically that all you need, if you want to issue your own asset, it will be automatically tradable from everyone that has the wallet installed. And it will be, if you will want to trade this asset for Beams, the transaction will be as fast as a Beam transaction, which is not the case as with Bitcoins, because they have their own inherent limitations. So again, it means something very simple to user, to issue their own assets, to start trading, right? And then more and more primitives, DeFi primitives will come into our network, more advanced, like non-fungible assets or side chains, or different oracles. So it's all in the works. Think about CFD, like contract for difference, financial applications. It's all in the works. I mean, for our users, it's a not so far future, but for us, it's today.
Yele, I'd like to ask you what makes Bundle different from existing exchanges or crypto products in Africa?
So I think that in the early days, or currently, our focus has always been on usability and mainstream adoption. And so a lot of the stuff that we support today is around that, right? And I think the unique difference that Bundle currently has is that we are the first to really put crypto and fiat side by side, right? So you have a fully powered exchange as well as a payment platform that allows you to send and receive cash or crypto, right? So we treat crypto and cash on the same footing. And there are people who I send money to on Bundle, and I don't even send Naira. I just send them BUSD, right? So I send them Bitcoin, because on Bundle you can send someone Bitcoin, but very easily calculate the amount in Naira and send them that Naira equivalent, right? So we make sending crypto super, super easy. But I think what would really differentiate us from, a lot of the products in the space today is where we want to evolve towards, right? So we're not even thinking about saying, oh, how do we become the best, financial services application? We're like, no, how do we build a product that has true mainstream appeal, right? And so that means we're going to do a lot of things that is very unusual for most African startups, talk less of someone that is in the crypto space. Because for us, we see crypto and digital assets as some, as money, right? And money is something that you can exchange for value with another party, right? and you want to build things that just increases the utility value of crypto. And so these look like, content, media, social. There's a lot of ideas we have around like NFTs that I think are just going to be like really cool. So NFTs as micropayments, gaming. And for me, like what we built today is like it's like a foundation, right? So when you're trying to build a skyscraper, or any building in particular, the foundation all looks the same, right? But there are a few things that makes the foundation different. So when you look at the foundation of a skyscraper versus the foundation of a 1-story or a 3-story building, there are a few things that make you realize this building is meant to go a lot higher than the average one, right? So today we have a foundation, and to the naked eye, it might seem similar to a lot of existing products, but we've made a lot of fundamental decisions that set us up nicely to go after the vision for Bundle, which is, again, like I said, driving the adoption of digital assets across Africa, because we believe that, if crypto becomes mainstream, we create an opportunity to give every African economic freedom, which I believe will be a huge impact on Africa's economic development.
So Sasha, how important is Africa to the BIM community?
I have never been in Africa yet. That's a big miss. I need to fix it. But so far as I understand, it will help people to manage their funds across the borders, and not in a way which is unlinked to, not necessarily linked to institutions, which means like more flexible way. And this is, if I understand, this is the direction. And all we need to do is to make the wallets as friendly and, as Yele said, as fun as possible. And what we remember is you, Agbona, you submitted a feature request. You said that sometimes you need to specify the value in fiat. And while we display the fiat, BIM to fiat, BIM to dollar exchange rate, it would be nice if we would, if the user will be able to specify the value actually in dollars. And this is something that we're gonna implement fairly fast. So, and you guys were the first who actually led this case, which for me means a bright signal for adoption. Okay, because someone who just sends to exchanges, right? He is a different kind of adopter, right? Yeah, but you guys actually use BIMs, and this is beautiful, and we are working on the cases to support it and to make it simple, and we'll see how fun can discover itself in our wallets.
So, Yele, I want to ask you this: you're like a pro-African, that's the right word. So, like, do you see crypto as a new infrastructure for remittance in Africa?
I do. I really do. But I think about it a little bit different and from first principles. So you hear a lot of people, and I changed my views on this when I started doing a lot of research around, why remittance is the way it is in terms of, why Western Union is Western Union, and so the challenges that tech startups have today in the traditional fiat world. But I think what a lot of people don't realize about crypto and remittance is that we have to build infrastructure to make this possible, right? So, for instance, we, fingers crossed, should launch in Ghana soon. And one of the first things that we have to think about is, how do we create liquidity in Ghana so that users in Ghana can buy Bitcoin, right? Or like any of these digital assets. So what people don't realize about a company like Western Union is that they have float that is literally packed in all these different countries and corresponding banks, and that's what creates the liquidity between all these various currencies. So even though you can move Bitcoin within 10 minutes or any other sort of like Beam or BNB or BUSD, a lot of people still have to convert their crypto into cash that they can use, because most merchants today don't accept cash, right? So, one of the companies that I really love, and I can't sort of disclose them now because it's not a public investment, they've solved that problem. They're not in a lot of countries, but the idea is that you could, even if you're not a crypto exchange, you could get crypto and convert that into fiat. And so what I want to enable with Bundle is, if Bundle is in every single African country and we have users who believe in digital currency and in crypto, they understand the idea of money, right? And how we take government-backed fiat currency for granted, even though 100 years ago, if you told people that this paper money is not backed by gold, they will have kind of gone crazy, and they did. I still believe people can learn about alternative forms of money and why Bitcoin or Beam and BNB and all these different assets are a better store of value. And so what would then happen is, number one, you have a lot of liquidity between all these different African countries, and we have disintermediated the dollar, because today is extremely difficult. The reason why Africa has the highest sort of like intra-African cross-border payments is actually extremely expensive, right? So globally, you have rates that can be as low as 1% and can be instant, but in Africa, to go between sort of like maybe Ugandan shilling to Nigerian naira is extremely expensive, and it takes a long time, right? And that's because we don't have enough dollars, right? We just don't have enough dollars in circulation in our own economies, and that makes it difficult for us to have Pan-African trade. And so digital currencies, in my opinion, offer us two things. One is that they allow us to build cross-border payment infrastructure that is not owned by anyone, and anyone can build a wallet to participate in that ecosystem, and you don't have to take permission. It's like permissionless open banking, right? That's number one. Number two is that it's like going from 2G to 4G, right? Or it's like skipping landlines, or how we skipped laptops and went straight to mobile in terms of like internet penetration. That's how I think about digital currencies. And then the final one is the fact that we can disintermediate the dollar, right? When yes, we know we know the issues around like inflation and things like that, but actually the reason why the Nigerian naira, for instance, is being priced at 450 is not because all of a sudden our economy has gotten worse by 60%. It's just because there's a lot of demand for the dollar, and people can move in and out of naira easily. So it's like when you have a demand, or when you have a supply shock, it affects sort of like the price at which your asset trades at. And so this idea of like African currencies being held at the neck by like sort of other fiat currencies, this is kind of like what digital currencies can create. They can liberate Africans and take us into this future whereby we are sovereign, not just as nations, but as individuals about our own financial freedoms, right? And so, yes, I do agree that we would have remittances and cross-border going through digital rails, but we have to build sort of like the payment. We have to do two things. One is educate more people about Bitcoin and other digital currencies and why these things have some kind of value. And number two is we need as many on and off ramps in as many African countries as possible. And when we have that, then you don't need to go through the dollar. You can go through a variety of digital assets based on what users believe in and what the market votes for. And then you can truly have instant settlements. And so, that's a vision that I'm extremely passionate about, and I want to make a reality.
So I see that you had about Africa and then our drive towards digitalization. But now you're aware that we have an oppressive government in Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you see the possibility of government banning cryptocurrencies across Africa? And if that happens, what is going to be like the post-crypto aftermath for the continent?
Okay, so personally, I would like to think that. So let me speak, and I'm gonna hopefully this comes out the right way. So I think that the chance of a government in Africa banning crypto is non-zero. That is, there will be. I mean, there are a couple of countries where crypto is banned. But when you go back, when Columbus was saying that, oh my God, guys, there's, and it's not be the best example because of some of the things that, these guys committed in Latin America, but they were like, there's value in Latin America. There's something happening in Latin America, and I want to discover this new world. And he went to all of these various kings in Europe, even though it wasn't, I've forgotten where it was from, but the king that gave him the funds, I think it was the Spanish king that gave him the funds to go on this expedition. He had no affiliation with that particular country. Personally, the reason why I buy into this idea of the sovereign individual is that the borders that makes me Nigerian and makes someone Ghanaian and makes someone Kenya, we didn't put up those borders. So this idea of like nationalism, for me, doesn't quite exist. I care about Africa as a whole and Africans as a whole, right? So if today the Nigerian government says they're banning crypto, there's a very high chance that I would go to a country that can allow me to build bundle to drive the adoption of crypto across Africa, right? And the beauty of crypto, and the reason why I love the fact that it's open source, is that it means people can learn, people can build. You can build on top of my innovation, and when we started Bundle, I wanted Bundle to be a non-custodial wallet. But we, and that's why I love some of the stuff that you guys are doing at Beam, because you show that you can have non-custody alongside sort of like great UX, right? The moment I feel that we can do fiat on and off ramps and build a non-custodial solution for Bundle, we will become a non-custodial solution. And that is important because it means that we cannot be shut down, right? Like you don't have a single point of failure, a centralized point of failure, right? So for me, I don't think 54 countries in Africa are going to come out and say we're banning crypto. I don't think that's going to be the case. And the beauty about Bundle is that one of the reasons why I'm also pushing our team to do more outside of finance is that we're going to launch in some countries whereby our crypto features is like dumbed down or like maybe not necessarily available because of the regulations in those countries. However, a time will come when they will be like where crypto can happen and Bundle is already there. And because we're pro crypto, we're going to launch crypto very quickly. So for me, like, this is the commitment towards sort of like decentralization and digital currencies and infrastructure goes beyond one country. It's bigger than one country, one president, one government. And I genuinely believe that a lot more Africans will begin to buy into this idea of self-sovereignty, but at the same time, this idea of a digital tribe that is not really about what country are you from. And when we have that, then we can begin to coordinate ourselves around ideologies that go beyond, nationalities. I think like that is an idea of the past, in my opinion. So you can see I'm very, very passionate about these topics.
And I want to ask Sasha something now, that with everything you've heard here today, with everything we've discussed, what would you say is the ideal dream for being in Africa? So with everything we discussed, Sasha, with everything Yele has said, all the questions that was asked, what would you say is the ideal dream, or the ideal, and let's say 5-10 years from now, what do you see for being in Africa?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I understand. I think I second to what Yele said, that Yele doesn't see borders, right? And So I would ask, why not, open the borders to the entire world? And this is where we could see the usage of crypto, right? So we would like to see more and more adoption worldwide, right? We would like to see more people that, I don't know, you want to pay to someone in Thailand for the stickers, and you want to make this payment, gone in a few seconds, right? So this is the ideal future for cryptocurrency. And by the way, BIM also has both privacy coins and opt-in auditability to be compliant with tax regulations or whatever. So this is how I see the ideal future, is that people can control their privacy, right? They can decide, right? They can decide on where, in the cases that they need to be compliant, they can be compliant, but it doesn't mean that, like on other blockchains, you went to somewhere and you drink coffee every day, so everyone can see that you're buying a coffee every day, right? There is nothing wrong about that, right? But it's not necessarily, it would feel weird that everyone that can access blockchain, he can see like that you have a coffee token and you spend it in particular in particular time ranges, right? So I think that adoption is one of the words, and second is the richness of applications and financial instruments that are built on top of the platform, which is a different form of adoption, right? We have the means of exchange and store of value, but currently when we are starting to build confidential assets and DeFi tools, it can go far beyond the digital money approach, right? It's a bigger game. It's basically bringing the crypto economy with the confidential coin all together, right? And I do believe that it can help to more people to find these scenarios and to build the applications that are that will reflect a particular set of needs. So I need to do my research about a particular set of needs in Africa, and I will happily learn from you guys, from Agbona, from Yele, and maybe we can bake something even together. For example, we're about to release, we're in final steps of preparing to release the web wallet. The magic part of the web wallet is its server side part. Okay, it's a wallet service that is going to serve the integrations backend for third-party wallets. Again, in a non-custodial way, right? So if one day any wallet would like to, to enable holding beams, then we are going to offer an open source server-side component that can be run elsewhere, and this kind of wallet will be the backend for third-party apps. Okay, and this is just one case. When we will have the DeFi primitives, then you guys, again, when we can come up with any kind of cooperation and identify what kind of financial instruments can be more relevant for Africa, right? And we can build it together.
Adoption, financial instruments, yep, cover most of them. I want to ask you something on privacy for Nigeria. So recently there was this rumor of the federal government mandating businesses using PayStar to have carry out KYC for all the directors. So the question now is, what do you see that as a problem for the future of tech in Africa if that happens?
It's always going to be tough. I'm a big believer in the idea of self-sovereignty. But my personal belief is, I've forgotten the saying, but there's this idea of like, when in Rome, Caesar is king, right? And so what I love about crypto is that it's not about saying, oh, let's go fight a battle in Rome. It's about saying, oh, we've created this new country that we think is better. And so if you're not happy with Rome, come to crypto land, right? So for me, but if you're in Rome, you have to play by the rules of Rome, right? The beauty about crypto in general for me is that, like, this idea of crypto land is not bound by geographies, right? So I can decide to join crypto land in Nigeria, someone in Uganda, in Chile, in South Korea can decide to join crypto land at the same time, and all they need to do is to download the wallet and get some crypto, and that's it. And at that point, like, the rules of self-sovereignty apply. So I think that one thing is clear: we're always going to have this battle around like privacy, and we're seeing companies like Apple really pushing the thread. I think we need to educate people about. For me, the way I think about privacy is that the average person needs to understand the cost of something being free, right? When something is free, you end up being the user, and so you're getting that thing for free because the company that is giving you that product for free is monetizing you as the product. So people have to be more comfortable with the idea of paying for things. But that's why I love sort of like the idea of protocols and tokens, because all of a sudden you can build things or coordinate individuals and build protocols that define rules, that something that had to be done coordinated by a platform doesn't have to be done via the platform anymore. It can be done via the protocol, and this idea of rent seeking is gone, right? So do you need, how much does Apple pay all of its employees? How much does Apple pay, or Google pay all of the employees? All that revenue that they make and the cost towards privacy could be given to the employees or given to the users, right? So it might not be a direct, like, oh, we made 100 billion, we're giving X amount of money to our users. But the bottom line is, the reason why you're getting, you needed corporations to coordinate individuals, right? But protocols and this idea of distributed governance can change that. And I think a combination of protocols and like products not being free are the things that would sort of push us away from these privacy issues that we see today. But again, when in Rome, Caesar is king, and if you don't abide by the rules of Caesar, you're breaking the laws. And if you get hurt by the laws, then I can't really say anything about that. So that's the way I think about privacy in general.
Basically, people pay to Apple for their products, right?
Pretty much.
Sure. Yeah. So Sasha, are there any indicators to show how effective the UI UX of Beam has been towards driving adoption in Africa? Are there any indicators to show that the UI UX of Beam is helping more Africans adopt Beam?
Well, so currently, I wish I could say more, but we haven't received. I can judge what are my signals to measure adoption, right? We can see the activity of community, right? And we can see the reviews that were left in the app stores. right? So I don't have anything distinguishable about the app stores, but from the use cases that you have brought, that, for example, that exchange rate, it's actually made me very happy, right? It means that the people are actually using the wallet for real life use cases.
So, Yele, the last question for you is you came back to the country 4.5 years ago, and what would you say is the major problem you have, like operating in Nigeria, in Africa, why you're working with Binance Lab, why leading microtransaction, and now that you're with Bundle, what has been the number one challenge you face in the continent?
I think I would say is infrastructure challenges. You know, things like power, internet. You know, there are a lot of things that, like when I travel out of the country, I just realized just how much some of the things that, you know, people in the sort of more economic developed worlds, you know, have as advantages that they don't even think about, because these infrastructure has become utility, right? So not having to spend, you know, a crazy amount of time in traffic to cover a short distance because you have something like a subway, right? Having cheap, you know, when you compare the price of one gig of data, you find out that in most African countries it's more expensive to buy 1 gig of data than it is to get 1 gig of data in the West, despite the fact that, you know, the GDP per capita is magnitudes high in the West. So again, the cost is even more challenging. And then, you know, power, you know, people not having access to affordable and consistent power affects productivity and affects sort of like earning potential. So the unfortunate thing is that, like, these are not things that we can solve ourselves. However, though, my personal belief when it comes to my economic development thesis is governments keep talking about agriculture, they keep talking about diversification and industrialization, but in my opinion, our biggest sort of resource as Africans is our people, right? Like, and one of the big things about COVID is that it has forced a lot of companies and individuals to try remote work for the first time, people that would never have done it for 10, 20 years. So essentially, what COVID has done is to push the agenda and the possibility of a world where remote work can be the norm. You know, so if, let's say, we were like 1% remote, and it would have taken us 10 years to get to 10% remote, I think that we can do that in about 2 to 3 years. And so that benefit for Africans, to me, is this idea of you know, and I keep using phrases like this, you know. So when you hear a computer in every home, or you hear like a crypto wallet in every African smartphone, I genuinely believe that you have a future whereby you probably have, you know, one remote individual in every small business. And so what that does is that all of a sudden the earning potential of an individual, because they're working globally and they have skills that they can deliver digitally, just goes up, right? So, and this is why I 100% believe that crypto is going to be big in Africa, because what will happen is, if I have a non-custodial wallet and I do a job, right, and I deliver that job online, and I get paid in crypto, that money is self-sovereign. That's my money, right? And you know, whenever I do payments and I want to pay, you know, like I try to pay one of our service providers, and it took a week for the transfer to clear, and they were telling me things like, oh, we can't confirm your payment. Can you send this and that? And whilst I was still sorting that out, I had to pay for something else, and this provider accepted crypto. I sent him more money and he got the money in 10 minutes. So for me, I'm like, if you're going to have a world that is globalized and is working remotely, the existing financial infrastructure is just not going to be able to sustain that kind of sort of compression in terms of the way people work. And so regardless of sort of like the infrastructure deficits and some of these challenges that we can't solve for as individuals, I personally think that all of these macro trends would all come together and drive an unstoppable economic improvement for Africa.
All right, so the first question is for Sasha. It was asked by a community member by the screen name CX Harriway, and it says, how does this aim to solve issues of fraud amongst users?
Genuinely authentic question on how actually how fraud can be defined in the terms of privacy coin, right? So the main idea is to use a secure communication channel when you receive an address from someone, and you need to send money to him, right? So you receive this address through some secure channel where you actually have your personal ways to validate that this person is actually the receiver, right, or the sender, the peer of the transaction. So it's actually the same how you validate the idea of fraud in Telegram, right? There can be 500 people with the same picture, but one of them is actually the person, right? Maybe the same person has a few accounts, but for simplicity, there are clones, and you find ways to validate. So just stay vigilant. It's a privacy coin. That's basically one thing. And then there are permanent addresses. So it means then once you were, that this is an address that mining pool is sending you money from, that's another way to verify it, which is, again, not on blockchain, it's only in your personal wallet.
All right, thank you very much for that, Sasha. And the last question is from another committee member by the name Bruce, and this is for you, Yele, and it says, so far, the most popular cryptocurrencies are for speculative purposes. I'm sure a lot of Africans would know this already. But he says, what do you think could be some of the best use cases for cryptocurrencies in Africa?
I think in the short term, I think stable coins is probably what will get some sort of product market fit. Just because, if I created a spectrum, I would say you have cash, physical cash, then you have kind of like, cash that is in your bank account. So digital cash, and then you have mobile money, and then mobile money and stable coins are sort of quite similar. And then you have something like Bitcoin, which is, doesn't have an underlying sort of fiat peg to it. So I think, we'll see a lot more adoption with stable coins, especially on the side of micropayments. The other things that I personally think about that I love and would love to explore in the future is the idea of like tokens for community governance and participation, and sort of coordination rights. I'm very passionate about like governance enabled tokens, and things like what people are calling DAOs, but I don't necessarily buy into a lot of the hypes. I think differently about them. And then, in the US, this might not be something that we can build, but in Africa, we can build it. So income sharing agreement as tokens, it's a huge one. And I have some experiments that we're exploring in the space, and we'll do some really cool things there as well. And then community tokens, right? So a celebrity having a token that's based on how much you have and, how long you've held it for, you get some benefits, right? So almost as loyalty points on the blockchain. So that's kind of some of the three ideas that I have. But again, I think like a lot of these use cases, we will have to sort of build them and experiment with them, and they might not be 100% decentralized to begin with. But if you remember what I talked about this idea of like product to platform to protocol, and progressive decentralization. So, yeah.
When are we going to see Beam on Bundle?
So I mean, like, actually, hold on. Let's see. Let's see. It's a good question. Let me see. So I mean, like, it could be one of the, let's have a conversation. It's listed on our a number of our exchange partners that we use for liquidity. And if there's a active community, which I'm in the group, and when I look at the amount of messages in there, I'm always quite impressed. So I think it could definitely be one of the assets we list in this this half of the year. So yeah, I just checked. You guys are on Binance, so it can be quite easy.
Of course we are. Right. Also, all these things like our confidential assets. If you have any like concrete idea, like you've just told about 2 of your ideas, and they can be done with confidential assets or on top of Beam, then we can also definitely have a cooperation on implementing it. And things as simple, like I call them like simple tokens, like loyalty points or celebrity points or whatever, they are already live on 5.0, and you can control the emission. So it's here.
Do you guys have any final words, any last thing you'd like to say to the community, to Yele, to Sasha? No?
Buy some beams.
By the way, I use Bundle a lot for all the transactions.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, it's cool. Like, I have to say, it's something I enjoy using Beam, the Beam wallet for my transactions. It's easy, like the wallet is free. And Bundle has that same feel, like it's so easy to. I think I'll ask you for some money after this call. I'll be sending you.
Request.
All right, then, thank you very much, guys, for this session. I really appreciate it. Took your time, and it was very enlightening for me and insightful as well.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks a lot. And let us know how we can make our wallet even better.